They affect the prices we pay at the grocery store, and not just on the crops that are actually harvested from the farm fields, but on a lot of other products. And we have experienced one of the wettest springs in Ohio history, followed by a period of hot, dry weather. And all of that has had an impact on Ohio's largest industry, and that, of course, is agriculture. So we're going to talk about the corn, the wheat this morning with Dwayne Siekman. He is a CEO of the Ohio Corn and Wheat Growers Association. Dwayne, it's good to have you back.
Good. Thank you.
And we'll find out a little bit more about the crop yields that maybe to come, the impact on grocery store prices, but also what farmers are going to try and do to help alleviate the situation with the nation's economic deficit, and find out more about that. So for the next few minutes, Dwayne, we're going to be picking your brain.
Very good. Looking forward to it.
It sounded to me as though our state's farmers made up a lot of ground in the week or so after Memorial Day.
Absolutely. As you said, this has been a trying spring, probably one of the most trying springs that farmers have faced in Ohio in quite some time. And as of last week, right Memorial Day, we were about 19% of our corn was planted in the state of Ohio. This past Monday, USDA said 58% was planted, but we're probably even well above that. And farmers always tell me, you give us a good straight 7 to 10 days of solid weather, and we can get a crop planted very quickly.
That is technology at work, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The efficiencies, the equipment, they can move, and they're working 20-hour days.
Now, as I recall, and I can't remember if it was you who told me, but somewhere in there I heard that June 1st is kind of the magic date for Ohio farmers in terms of getting their crops in the ground. And because that dry weather didn't hit till about then, they're kind of one side or the other of that. So what do you foresee as the crop yields later on in the summer?
Well, there's a few dates throughout spring, and May 15th is really the date that they want to have it in the ground to get that maximum yield. And historical data shows that every day after May 15th, they lose yield. June 5th is another date that's out there that is from a crop insurance component. So farmers can elect not to put anything in the ground to get their full coverage of crop insurance. It's much like homeowners insurance, any type of accident, and this basically the accident is Mother Nature in terms of that. But we also see, we had a late spring 2 years ago, we had record yields, and it's really the rest of the growing season, June, July, August, that impacted. If we get some good rains in August when the grain is starting to fill on the cob, you can see bigger yields. So we can mitigate some of the yield loss by a growing season that is optimal through the rest of the year.
And how much of Ohio's corn and wheat crop goes to various things? And I know, they're in everything. So, almost everything you buy at the grocery store, and plus a few other places, has got either corn or wheat of some kind in it.
Yeah, for instance, the corn crop, the majority of our corn leaves the state of Ohio and goes to the Delmarva region, southern or southeast United States, North Carolina, to feed livestock. Then we have our Ohio ethanol industry. We feed corn to livestock in Ohio. And we also produce some corn sugar over in Dayton.
All of these things going into various products somewhere along the way, except for the ethanol, it makes it to the grocery store, though, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And wheat is very similar. Our wheat in Ohio is not used to produce bread. We actually import wheat in for our mills to turn it into flour to make bread. Most of ours are cookies, cakes, non-leavened goods, communion wafers. 80% of all communion wafers are made from Ohio wheat. And then we do export wheat to the Middle East. Egypt is one of the largest users of soft red wheat.
Okay. And soft red wheat is the type that is commonly grown in Ohio?
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, okay. It's a lower protein type of wheat than you'll see out in Kansas.
Okay, very good. I think the last time we were here, we kind of talked about the ethanol industry and the impact that it was going to have, and we were predicting then the demand for corn, not just here in Ohio, but across the country, because of ethanol, was going to drive up prices of corn, which, of course, not only impacts corn, but also corn syrup, which is in so many different products. Now, where do you see that now that the year has progressed a little bit, the gas prices are where they are now? How much of an impact does the ethanol industry have on the price of corn?
Well, it does have an impact, as much of an impact as exports and actually livestock. It's just really any demand driver, anything that uses up corn is going to impact it. The weather has also had an impact on price. You still see a lot of speculation on, okay, you've got rain in Iowa. Okay, the price, if the corn's not in the ground, the price of corn's going up. The market's going to signal that it's going up. And so it's still going to have an impact. Ethanol is remaining strong. We're not seeing a growth of the industry. We're not seeing the elimination of the industry because the fuel ethanol is trading about 80 cents to $1 less than unleaded gasoline. So it's an economic benefit to have that fuel as an option.
So tell us a little bit then as you talk to your counterparts across the country. I mean, there's high water in Iowa. There's flooding in North Dakota. Yeah, everybody's got weather problems this spring as usual. What do you foresee later on this summer and then even into the fall as far as our prices go, our food prices go because of farm yields?
Well, the USDA was projecting that the United States farmers would plant about 92 million acres into corn this year. Because of Ohio and eastern Indiana and Dakotas, we're probably going to be shy of that. And everybody's trying to get a handle on where that is. Is it 89 million? Is it 90 million? But for the most part, we're going to see strong yields from those states out west. They got the corn in the ground. They're getting some good rain now. And what's ironic, farmers that have gotten their corn in the last week are saying, well, we could use a good shower now. And, you never get the rains when you actually want them. But there's a lot of, as I said, there's a lot of growing season left. I think what the projections are is that we're going to have strong yields throughout the country. And we may not get that 14 billion bushel crop, but we're going to get over 13 billion as of right now. Now, if the rest of the year turns to be what Oklahoma and Kansas have faced on their wheat side, we're going to see drought and hot temperatures. That's never a good thing when you're trying to grow any type of plant.
All right. So we'll keep watching it through the summer.
Yes.
But overall, I mean, from your perspective, looking at the long term, is this an unusual, other than the wet spring, is this really an unusual year? Because it kind of sounds like it's always that way in the U.S. I mean, somewhere somebody's got bad weather, somewhere somebody's got good weather, and it all kind of evens out in the end.
Mother Nature, no one's been able to control Mother Nature. No one will ever control Mother Nature, and it's just something that farmers are dealing with every spring. And with our wheat crop, we plant it in the fall, and so our wheat's growing right now. And with those cool temperatures, those wet temperatures turning into hot, wet temperatures, or hot and wet, could lead to some mold issues, and that's also an impact on Ohio's wheat crop. But right now, it's still looking pretty good. So a lot of factors still remain. And I think the one thing and I know we're going to segue into this soon, but the one thing that listeners need to know is that farmers have risk management tools at their disposal to offset some of those things that they can't control, and that's weather.
Okay. One of those tools is crop insurance, which you alluded to earlier, which, as I understand it, most Ohio farmers are not going to need to worry about this year.
Well, there's going to be a few that elect to take the crop insurance because they're looking at their yields, potential yield loss. They may switch over to soybeans, and so there's a lot of cost involved with this crop. You have your fuel costs, your fertilizer costs, your seed costs, so they have to weigh a lot of different factors to determine, I'm not going to put that crop in the ground. I'm going to take my crop insurance that I purchased and get covered at that 100% level.
All right. Another risk aversion policy is the subsidies. They've been with us a long time. We've talked about them before. But I guess the Corn and Wheat Growers Association is taking the point of view that maybe direct payments to farmers are not as good an idea as they once were.
Yeah, it's when you talk risk aversion policies, direct payments are not a risk aversion policy. It's simply it's been a payment to farmers regardless if there's a crop or not. And they were at the time they were established, there was a need to keep farmers planting the crop because there was this demand, and you wanted to keep prices at a point where the rest of the industry could grow, and that's other users could grow. But at this time, our farmers have said, we got a budget deficit. We want to balance the federal budget, and we need to look at our inefficient programs as well. And we need to look at those. What are those programs that are better risk aversion programs that can protect us in these unforeseen times? And crop insurance is a big part of that. We want to move away from direct payments. We want to take those and buy down or move down the debt. Move to a stronger crop insurance, to a revenue-based approach that when there's a loss, that's when farmers need assistance. And that loss based on not a business decision that they've made, but weather and not being able to get a crop in the ground to produce something to feed the world, fuel the world.
Is the difference being that rather than simply send subsidies or send direct payments to farmers year in, year out, regardless of the weather or the loss, you got that money and you've invested it like any other insurance policy or insurance company would do, so it's kind of earning money when it's not being used, and so then it's available when farmers need it?
We haven't gone that far. There's a lot of concepts being thrown around right now. The one concern that we have is that direct payments just go into land values and increase land costs, and it really doesn't ultimately, when you balance everything out, doesn't benefit a farmer. It goes up in land rent, and so that adds cost to them. So it's really based on crop yields, their crop history. May have a price component in there as well, but ultimately is if they see a loss based on the conditions that they're farming in, then there may be a need for some assistance just to make sure that farming operation stays around. But it's not just simply you farm this year, you signed up and said, I'm a farmer, I had so many acres, and you get a payment automatically. The price is now that we're in a demand-driven market versus a supply-driven market, and farmers want to get it from the marketplace.
Would we be talking about a pretty significant savings between direct payments and paying into a crop insurance plan?
It's all those things are being worked out. We're working with members of the Senate Ag Committee and the House Ag Committee. We have representatives from Ohio on both of those, so we're working with those. But right now, farm direct payments are $5 billion a year. And so we think there's a large portion of those could be eliminated, pay down the debt, and then look at what the crop insurance program would cost.
Is this separate from the budget? The Farm Bill is separate from the budget,
yeah,
or is this part of it?
Well, there's always talk. I mean, we've seen the House budget eliminate some farm programs. The Senate's talking eliminating farm programs. The administration's talking about eliminating farm programs. So we're assuming that farm programs are going to be going away, and we feel that we need to reform. And I think our challenge to all the other sectors of the economy is look at the inefficient spending. This country can't get on the right track if we just start protecting our own interests, because there's so many interests out there. Everybody needs to look at their programs, inefficient programs, and we see this as an opportunity to reform and make the programs better, make them so they don't impact the budget and they don't impact taxpayers they did, but they also are offering some sort of protection for those industries that may need it for those events that they can't control.
The way I remember it is that the direct payments were there to keep the prices relatively, prices at a level where the farmer could continue to stay in business without driving food prices up through the roof.
It's a little bit of that. What direct payments were in 96, and it was really a market transition payment. So it was 96 Farm Bill was freedom to farm, and these payments were market transition payments. It was to move farmers and agriculture off of federal programs, and then prices stayed low. And when farmers try to determine what crop they're going to plant, and when corn's traded at $1.50 and you're looking at your cost of producing is over $2, you're not going to plant that crop. But we needed that crop. So that's what direct payments essentially said, hey, you're going to get a little bit extra here to mitigate that difference between the cost and what you're going to get on the market price, and that guaranteed that those crops would be planted. So that's a very simplistic way of looking at it. But
the farmer would get $2, but we would only pay $1.50.
Yeah.
So the price of the corn at the store wouldn't go up. Is that right?
No.
Right?
And sweet corn's a whole different animal. This is all field corn. So at the store, we're not selling field corn at the store.
That's right. I understand. But we've got to get that image in my mind, and I just can't get away from corn on the cob. So that's all I can think of. All right. What's the timeline then on that? Those discussions?
The Senate Ag Committee is already starting to have hearings across the country. Senator Stabenow from Michigan has said she wants to really get started on this. Senator Brown from Ohio, who really was an author of a component in the 2008 Farm Bill that was moving away from direct payments. In fact, if a grower elected to participate in what they call the ACRE, which is a crop revenue program, your direct payments would be reduced. And so we're taking a look at and working with Senator Brown and saying, how can we strengthen that to make it stronger so we don't even have to rely on these direct payments?
All right. The very latest from Ohio's farms, from Dwayne Siekman, CEO of the Ohio Corn and Wheat Growers Association. Dwayne, it's good to talk to you again.
Hey, thank you again.
Find out more about the organization and keep up on the latest at their website. It's ohiocornandwheat.org.